Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So lots to get our teeth into there with Susie Boniface and Julia Hartley-Brewer. And Boris Johnson all over the front pages again after his article, which first appeared yesterday morning in the Telegraph. Let's take a look at The Guardian, first of all, which you've picked out on this. Johnson in distortion row over £350 million Brexit claims, and it's the head of the UK Statistics Agency that's calling it a distortion. Is that right?
You can talk about Boris and whether or not he's got his facts fairly right or wrong, very wrong, and whether you would agree with a statistician, whether you agree with Boris. But that's a minor part of this story. The issue is that the Foreign Secretary, who is not part of the Brexit negotiations, has come out and decided to tell the rest of the world what those negotiations should involve, just before the Prime Minister, who is his boss, is about to declare what she thinks they should involve, and while one of his colleagues, the Brexit Secretary, is in the middle of those negotiations, which aren't currently going brilliantly well, and which do need us to present a united front to the European Union as to what it is that we want exactly. This is not helpful. It's not helpful to the national interest. It's not helpful whether you voted Leave or whether you voted Remain. It's not helpful if you're the Prime Minister. It's not helpful to his colleagues. This is only helpful to Boris.
Or is it, yes?
Well, it's only done, it strengthened his appeal amongst those parts of the Conservative Party which already liked him. I don't think it will have endeared him to those who didn't like him, and it's not going to do an awful lot to anybody else in the
key thing is, once you enter a cabinet, you take on cabinet collective responsibility. That is the normal convention. And there may be things with which you disagree, and there may be things that you would argue about in cabinet, and there may be things that you would personally go and see the Prime Minister about. But you don't go and write a 4,000-word article for a national newspaper without apparently getting permission from the Prime Minister. There was a bit of an issue over the weekend. Had the Prime Minister, had Number 10 seen this article? I think the impression I'm getting is that she was kind of told about it when it was already fait accompli.
Exactly.
Again, she was probably a bit busy, along with the Home Secretary and everyone else, trying to deal with the fact that there was a bomber on the loose.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and the Home Secretary is photographed on the front of the Metro. Stop the backseat driving, Boris. That was in an
this is also crucial, actually, remember, of course, because during the big Brexit debates, when she gave the debates, one of the things she said was how he wasn't someone you'd want to drive you home at night. So it does actually
share a cab with.
Share a cab, yeah. But
she implied that she wanted Theresa May in the driving seat.
Yeah, but this is the thing.
It's also not Boris's business. He's not in charge.
Oh no, I think this is a load of nonsense. No, he's look. Any cabinet minister should be able to put their tuppence worth in on the biggest single issue facing this country. B, he's Foreign Secretary. EU is a foreign policy matter. He should have some input. The thing is about Boris is everything that Boris does is about Boris, as opposed to something he absolutely believes in.
So if he should be allowed to put his input in, he would argue, I'm making the optimistic case.
In cabinet.
But there is an argument. As a Leaver, a part of me is thinking, and again, I've held no candle for Boris Johnson at all. If it is the case that we are about to just hand over tens of billions of pounds, which could go to the NHS, to schools, cutting tuition fees, social care for the elderly,
back to farmers who are going to lose it.
Things which, frankly, are a rather bigger priority for me than keeping Jean-Claude Juncker happy. Then absolutely, I think that we need to know about it. But in terms of someone who's supposed to be this incredible politician, he's really bad at politics. Which the evidence of that is, by the way, is that he's Foreign Secretary, not Prime Minister.
Well, yes, but should he have been sacked then, in your view?
I'm of the view that Prime Ministers should show that they're in charge, and of course she's not.
If she doesn't,
can I finish?
Sorry, you've been going on for 5 minutes. I was going to.
Sorry to answer your question. No, but I'm personally of the view that if she is going to have any authority whatsoever, she has to be able to sack anyone in her cabinet. Yeah, she should sack him.
Susie.
If she doesn't sack him, she's going to have problems with whatever happens next week, or when Michael Gove changes his mind about something, or when David Davis thinks something or other. It doesn't matter what the issue is. If she doesn't control her cabinet, doesn't show that she is the leader of the party, she cannot do this. Perhaps she's waiting for conference to try and re-establish herself as leader of the party, make sure she's got the grassroots support in order to then use some power where needed. But she's got to get rid of Boris.
And you mentioned Michael Gove. He's mentioned on the front of the Times. Johnson, they say, cut adrift after Brexit
Yeah.
quite
It was
backfired.
supposed to be this another big deal, but we know
Gove stabs him in the back again.
We know perfectly well that Michael Gove isn't his big ally. Everybody
Well, there was a
knows
suggestion in the
that.
papers today that perhaps Priti Patel and Michael Gove were on side with Boris.
But again, they will be on side with the argument about let's not just, give away our negotiating position on Friday in the speech in Florence.
Well, yes, and there is that speech in Florence. Will what Boris Johnson has written influence the Prime Minister at all? So will this make his case
Whether it
more
does or
likely to
not
happen?
is almost irrelevant, because what's going to happen is it's going to influence the coverage. Whatever the Prime Minister says, it will be, oh, she's toughened her stance, it must be because of Boris. Or it will be, oh, she hasn't said what Boris said in his article, so therefore there's some kind of... It's all going to be about the Tory split, which is what the European debate has been about for the last 40 years. If you're going to move this on to Brexit, if you're going to get the Brexit everyone in Britain would like, which is a successful one, you have to try to get away from the fact that the Tories can't decide what's going on with Europe, and this is not helping.
OK, very briefly, is he strengthened or weakened, do you think, at the end of this?
You think we can? I never thought he was strong, but I think he's strengthened by the fact that she clearly doesn't think she can afford to sack him.
OK.